Hey guys, how are you all doing today? Ultimate Elite here. I have the privilege to be allowed back into your homes today or wherever you're deciding to watch this. I hope as always that every single one of you is doing very well. And today is our second installment of Ultimate Discussions, where I go into a topic and share my opinion on said topic. And that matter at hand today, microtransactions. Oh yes, little Jimmy loves going into his mama's purse and using her credit card to buy V-Bucks in Fortnite. But in all seriousness, guys, this is a topic that I have very strong opinions on, and it's just been very interesting seeing how it has changed and greatly influenced the gaming industry. And I believe this to be a very true statement. Once upon a time, this might have been a very subjective statement, but at this point, it's pretty much generally true. Whether it's for better or for worse is completely up to you, but I think overwhelmingly this has been seen as a negative thing. And I'm specifically referring to AAA gaming, by the way. But to really understand microtransactions, we need to look at the history of them before they were making any major impact in AAA business models. So I gathered a lot of information here for you guys. It's going to be kind of a long one, but hopefully an informative one and one that you might find interesting. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Okay, so our story begins back in June 27th, 2007, when Steve Jobs revealed the first iPhone. It's pretty much fair to say that the world would never be the same again as other competitors and companies started working on their development of smartphones. And when it came to game developers, both big and small ones, they started seeing a market that needed to be filled in smartphone app stores for games. And I say a market because developers had to cater to a much different type of gamer, the casual mobile gamer. Now I know it's controversial right there, right? That's a controversial statement because a lot of people don't see mobile users as gamers. You know, a lot of them don't even own a console or might have never even picked up a controller. But just bear with me, as you know, that's another topic in and of itself. But just work with me here, okay guys? Let's just keep moving on. But okay, so because of this, there were two fundamental business models that pretty much continue up until today to be the norm. The first one is the premium game, and that's pretty much a traditional gaming model overall, the one we saw for many decades before, where you buy the game and it's yours, and that's how it exactly translated into the actual app stores. So when it came to the game apps, you buy it, and it's yours to play, period. Everything that the developer worked on is there. No extra content that's going to be coming later with the paywall, like a DLC. And DLCs are another topic in and of itself. We've seen developers and publishers abuse the DLC, content by, having a big chunk of the game be in DLC. And you can see that this was greatly influenced by microtransactions, but we really won't go into it on this one. But yeah, so again, no boosts, no paywalls, no gems or coins, just simply no. You pay for it and done. And because this wasn't being aimed to hardcore gaming audiences, and the fact that you didn't need huge budgets and a large amount of staff members, it made games on your phone pretty cheap, only a few bucks at most, especially in those late 2000s. But then we got another gaming model that I think the overwhelming majority of us are aware of, and that's freemium games. If you're not familiar with the term freemium, it pretty much just means, simply put, that the initial download of the game is free, so nothing up front. You play the content, but systems are put in place that, let's use the word, encourage you to support the game by purchasing in-game microtransactions. And this is where we really see the beginning of the modern version of microtransactions in AAA games really start influencing the gaming world. Now, of course, microtransactions have existed before that. In its infancy, though, how are some common ways that we saw freemium games apply these microtransactions? Well, for example, you might have some sort of energy bar in the game, and things that you do within the game consume the bar until it's empty, and it recharges by itself after an extended amount of time. You can pay in-game currency to refill it or use real money to refill it. Another example is something might be exclusive and it's charging you a whole lot of in-game currency to get it within the game, or you can use real money, whether it be a small amount or a large amount, to get it right away and much easier. And pretty much anything similar to that involved having to play the game a lot and grind it out and save a lot of in-game currency to get stuff, or spending real money to get the stuff right away. And that might not seem to be a bad thing if there are a lot of opportunities to get in-game currency within the game's content, but eventually what happens is that a lot of opportunities to get in-game content kind of start to run out or become very limited. In some cases, forcing players to pay real money in order to have any form of significant progression. And that pretty much was the foundation of what we got to know to be the pay-to-win model, where content might be available to everyone, but those who do pay and invest money into the game, especially in the beginning, will have a much easier time progressing and/or will have access to things within the game like gear, loot, or boosts that might make the experience much more fun and enjoyable. It wouldn't be long for AAA devs and publishers to see how much microtransactions could increase the profitability of a game, no matter what game it was and no matter what genre it was. By the early 2010s, with the inevitable continuous innovation of both hardware and software, the need for bigger experiences with high resolutions and better graphics, the need for more staff members to work on these games, and therefore bigger budgets, it was just that much more enticing to apply this freemium pay-to-win model to games that actually were asking AAA game money, so full $60 games. And here's where we see one of the most notorious pioneers of microtransactions in AAA games, enter the story. EA. Now, I know there were other companies that were doing this along with EA, and it probably wasn't the first, but it was one of the earlier ones, and EA's story is very infamous. So we're going to be using EA as the example for the rest of this video. Now, like I've said, as most of you might know, EA was one of the first to implement microtransactions in its games, and most infamously with FIFA. Now, FIFA was already a huge moneymaker for EA before microtransactions, ever since the first FIFA game was released, FIFA International Soccer, way back in 1983. But since FIFA introduced, an admittedly pretty fun game mode that's called Ultimate Team, its profit for those games for EA increased dramatically, especially when the actual game mode evolved. And if you're not familiar with Ultimate Team because you don't play FIFA games or sports games in general, it's pretty much kind of like a trading card system where you get player cards of different rarities and ratings, and you build your soccer squad with those cards, and you compete against other FIFA player squads in different competitions and tournaments. There's even an E-League. That's kind of just like a quick sum up of what the game mode is. But how is it a pay-to-win model? Well, kind of getting a little into it, you obviously want the best cards in the game, the best soccer players. And there are two ways to get players in FIFA Ultimate Team. You can get packs that will give you a certain amount of random cards of different rarities, but if you're looking for a specific player, those top tier players, since it's random, it's not really the smartest way to go. So the other option, and this is kind of the more effective if you're looking for an actual specific player, is you go to the Ultimate Team marketplace and you try to find the card that's being sold by another FIFA user, another FIFA player. However, the problem with that is when you're talking about the high tier, like everyone wants those cards status, those specific ones will cost you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of FIFA coins, the in-game currency in FIFA. And it would take hours of gameplay, with modes and tournaments to get the coins to spend on the actual cards. Or what FIFA has done is that you can actually use real money to get a bulk amount of coins to make that grind much easier. And really, here's where we see EA begin using this pay-to-win model to its advantage. And, well, quite honestly, as a business, this is kind of a genius move. So you know how I mentioned earlier how devs and publishers needed higher profits because of the changing development demands of games with, more staff, bigger budgets? I remember that. Well, what happens if you take a game that is already huge and makes you a lot of money already? It's an annual release and arguably doesn't change from year to year, so therefore it doesn't require that much profound development time, and that's supported with the fact that the game releases around the same time every single year. So what do you get? You get FIFA. You get FIFA Ultimate Team. And as a FIFA fan, I can totally admit this, okay? That's why I've never really gotten FIFA games back to back ever in my life, especially currently. Really, because apart from Ultimate Team, nothing really changes as far as gameplay, as far as anything revolutionary within the game. But in any case, EA applies this model to Madden, and then I'm kind of going off a little bit, but then also 2K games applied this to the NBA basketball games, and now you pretty much see every single current sports title having this sort of microtransaction system in place. And it's just been getting worse. And here's where we see this model unravel even more. Because what happens when it starts going outside of non-sports games? And even worse, what happens if it starts becoming integral to game experiences? Now, continuing to see EA, they pretty much apply this to its bigger titles. For example, Battlefield 3, 4, and 1. It's kind of weird saying it that way, but that's what it is. Dragon Age Inquisition, Mass Effect Andromeda, Titanfall 2, and many others had some sort of microtransaction system in place. Whether it's up to you to decide the severity of its sin as far as how bad the microtransactions were in each game, but they existed. They existed within the actual games. But none of them were as notorious as Battlefront 2. Oh yes, I had to bring it up. Because kind of going back to what I was saying and mentioning about how microtransactions could become integral to a gaming experience, Battlefront 2 did exactly this. Especially when it was talking about the heroes and villains within Battlefront 2, how it would take hours and hours of gameplay to just unlock one of those guys. Now, I'm not going to go into it in more detail because people have been beating this topic to death, but what was most important about this was the response of the people to what EA was doing and saying. It's really seemed like the community was done with the bullshit and finally seemed that people had enough of it, of companies pinching them for more money, and it really seemed that games were going to change as a whole. However, the push only came from the Battlefront sub-community, not really from the game community as a whole. FIFA players didn't really speak that much about their microtransactions, or any other game for that matter, of any other company. And I have realized that many people just accepted microtransactions in their games, including me. Now, before you pick up your pitchforks and torches, like I've said earlier in the beginning of the video, I have a strong opinion about this, but I'm not unreasonable, and I'm pretty sure you have your opinions, and I totally respect them, as I hope you can respect mine. Now, but overall, if I had it my way, I would get rid of microtransactions completely and send it to the deepest circles of hell. Okay, that's how I feel about microtransactions. But that's not the world we live in. And as I've mentioned earlier, I understand that the gaming industry has changed, and the need to optimize profits is very important for a business. Trying to meet higher amounts of money, higher quotas, trying to make the shareholders happy. I understand that. I understand that businesses want to optimize their profit. So you can't get mad at them for that. But here is where I draw the line personally. If a game is free and the microtransactions aren't game breaking, that has to be fundamental, so cosmetic stuff or whatever, stuff like that, that's fine, I don't care. But if a game is free, it's genuinely good, and I enjoy it and I play it a lot, I will most likely support it with money. The perfect example, Apex. I play it all the time on the PS4, and obviously as you've seen on the PC. I play with friends, I have a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll buy the season pass. I'll buy battle packs to, you know, try to make my guy look a little cooler and different. I'm into that. Especially if it's a company that I really, a developer that I really support, which is Respawn. I think they're really cool. I love Titanfall. Okay, and that's one. If a game is full retail price, and again, microtransactions aren't game breaking, but I still enjoy the game, I will most likely not spend an extra dime. The perfect example, Battlefield and FIFA even. So Battlefield 1 is one of my favorite games of all time. I've really enjoyed it. As a history buff, I thought it was really interesting, and I really liked how they introduced a lot of those things. But the battle packs, apart from the actual puzzle pieces of the different melee weapons, which that was cool anyway, you can get those pretty easily. And I really never felt the need to buy battle packs because I was missing something out. Most of the stuff was cosmetic, and the actual core of the game was solid, and it was fun. To me, Battlefield 1, to me, I really enjoyed after the core game was solid. Now, when it comes to FIFA, I know I was kind of talking about them earlier, but if you're not obsessed with top-tier cards and wanting like the ultimate best ones, you can make pretty competitive teams and go up against players that have those type of cards and win sometimes. Again, it's a sports game, it'll go either way. But if you have a good tactic and a pretty decent competitive team, I've been able to get an entire gold team with a high chemistry, if all these terms are ringing a bell to you if you're a FIFA fan, and compete with people that have, you know, higher ratings than me. So to me, the experience isn't completely broken. But again, I have not spent a single dime on getting FIFA coins. And of course, if the game is absolute shit, and it's asking you $20 for a skin like freaking Anthem is, well, again, it could go to the darkest circles of hell. But at the end of the day, guys, I just think it's sad how publishers have taken this concept and have used it to abuse its consumers and have relied on these tactics to make them money instead of making quality games and experiences in order to keep their consumers happy and remain loyal to them and their products. But anyway, guys, this was kind of a long video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. I hope you found this informative. Tell me in the comments what your opinions are on microtransactions. As always, thank you so much for your time. Take care, everybody. Unleash your potential, guys. Bye.